In today's dumbed down, fattened up, drugged, democidal demonocracy of mob rule, it's all about feelings, fragile, feeble figments of forlorn fantasy. But in the Republic, it used to be about something else, ideas. It was about doing something. Now it's all about being someone. In the baby-killing, child-raping, pedo-Nazi states of America, life is worth only what you can sell a fetus, organ, child, or woman for. One's life should matter, and so too one's work. It should be about what you say, not how you say it. No matter what the thought police censor or silence, the unsayable must be said. Ignore the communist crowd's focus on what was. Instead, look to what can be. If you want change, start with yourself. Change by leading from the front, where others fear to go. Stop the fraud of feelings and watch out, for your thoughts become words. Your words become actions. Your actions become habits, and your habits become character. Real poverty is not bad housing or low wages. Real poverty is never having been loved, protected, nourished, and cherished. Welfare makes only weaklings. Democracy, dependence. Work brings dignity. Republic requires responsibility. Responsibility results in resiliency. Physical poverty is terrible. Spiritual poverty, abominable. Lift weights in the gym, but soar spirits on the farm. True wealth is not money, things, stuff, cars, and cash. Real wealth cannot be bought. Entitlement erodes esteem. When duty is demanded, esteem is earned. The secret is self-sacrifice in selfless service for God via man. Sense of purpose is priceless. Those few, faith fortified, freedom focused, and adversity augmented, who cannot be bought off, frightened off, but only killed off, are the most dangerous persons on the planet. Ex-DEA and DIA, retired SOCOM soldier, deep state targeted, turned whistleblower warrior, sabotaged and slandered, betrayed and saved, rejected and redeemed, as a teacher and truth teller, now America's intelligence officer, resisting tyranny in obedience to God, welcoming like-minded patriots, training next generations to infill corrupted agencies, and St. Martin them, inside out, bottom up, co-opting conquerors in Christ. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Lots to talk about today. Going to jump right into it. And I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff no one else is talking about. And I think that's because they are bought off. So the title is Breaking Will Trump Reagan China? And of course, Reagan collapsed the Soviet Union, collapsed communism in the Soviet Union. So it's now Russia, not Soviet Union anymore. That's when I went into the military. I was really lucky to go under Reagan because he was building up the military. And I have said previously that I believe that Trump's secret legacy is to collapse communism in China. What else is the guy going to do? He's got tons of money. He's been president twice, a beautiful wife, riches. So what's he going to be looking for personally? Personally, I think he's going to be looking for a legacy. Legacy, something really unique. Something really unique would be collapsing communism in China. And this is the story no one is covering. And I am really amazed about this, frankly, that no one is covering this. You can see my proofs on this at patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather and subscribe at the $5 level, where you'll get most of the curated news stories, or $15 level special resources, or $25 level, you'll get daily training videos. And I actually published the Point Patriot $25 a month training video yesterday, free, just so everybody could get a look at it, where I was really explaining the Preti shooting and how it is not murder, it is not execution. If anything, it is voluntary manslaughter, and how specifically what we saw in the video is not what the participants in the fight saw at all. And next week, I'll be having on my friend, the famous Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who wrote Archaeology, who's the expert on the physiological and psychological phenomena that happen in a lethal force confrontation. And we will get into that in great detail. But if you can, patreon.com, support the show. Or you can also just get created news at jeffreyprather.locals.com as well. But this is the reference. When I'm ever talking about on the air, you can actually go on Patreon or go on Locals and kind of follow along exactly what I'm talking about. This is the story, though, that no one is covering. Xi may be about to fall. Xi Jinping has purged General Zhang Zhuji, China's top military commander and vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, the CMC, in a sweeping move that has left the CMC with only 2 members, Xi himself and General Zhang Shengmin, a loyalist overseeing military discipline. So Yusha was once considered a close ally, a sworn brother, a red prince, so to speak, as they say. But he's been removed over grave violations of party discipline and state laws. Reports suggest leaking nuclear data to the United States, which is absurd. It's a ridiculous charge. Accepting bribes. That's an absurd charge, too, because all of the CCP senior officials are on bribes. Liu Zhenli, another senior general and chief of staff of the CMC's Joint Staff Department, has also been placed under investigation. The removal follows earlier purges, including that of CMC Vice Chairman He Weidong in October 2025 and Admiral Miao Hua in June 2025. Marking what analysts describe as the largest military purges since 1949. So what's that actually mean? That means he has purged all of his top leaders, the guys who work for him, and the military works for them. And this was the last combat experienced general as well. So the consolidation of power under Xi has raised concerns about the PLA's, the People's Liberation Army's operational readiness regarding the potential invasion of Taiwan. And really, they are really no longer capable of sustaining this. So I'm making very dramatic statements here today that Xi may be about to be toppled. And I'll explain why here shortly. And that Taiwan is not holdable. It is takeable, but it is not holdable because the People's Liberation Army is in tatters. The Pentagon has previously flagged the removal of senior PLA officers as causing uncertainty over organizational priorities. And the latest purge intensifies questions about the cohesion and capability of China's armed forces. The PLA is essentially a paper dragon. Remember, a couple of years back, they got into a hand-to-hand with India, and the Indian troops broke the necks of the Chinese and had big celebrations about this. So all these genius generals saying we'd lose a war with China don't understand the unrestricted warfare doctrine, that we've already lost a war with China. That's what Professor Ping said in 2020. And that was their execution after the first Gulf War of their unrestricted warfare doctrine, which was we're going to take the Americans on, but not kinetically because nobody can beat them. That's exactly what they've done. So there's no reason to do anything else. But all these idiots and morons and, all these highly paid civilians that never served and all these genius generals saying, oh, we got to get ready for a physical war with China. It is never coming. I've always said that very clearly. But now it's even more true because with the emphasis on the unrestricted warfare through the 1,000 Talents program, the military is really falling apart. And that is really important to understand. So Zhang was the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, as I said before. That's usually made up of around 7 people. It's now been whittled down to just 2. And the CMC is responsible for controlling millions of military personnel. It's so powerful that when Deng Xiaoping was paramount leader of the country, this was the only position he held for most of that time. Why is that so important? Because the soldiers are where the physical power is at. If you want to put somebody down, you got to get your soldiers out to shoot them, put them down, Tiananmen Square, all of that. So he has eliminated everybody, all the loyalists. There's one other guy, and that's only a matter of time. So what does that mean then? He has no direct liaison to the military anymore. And so what does that mean? That only Xi and one CMC general remain is unprecedented. The PLA is in disarray, and there are a lot of rumors floating around. We don't really know what's happening exactly. There's a lot of people making accusations, but they don't really know because it's a black hole there. But the specific allegations against these generals have not been released to the public, but they're already saying they are guilty because he's going to roll them up. So the PLA Daily editorial was already speaking of Zhang and Liu as if they were guilty, saying they had seriously betrayed the trust and expectations of the Communist Party Central Committee, as well as trampling on, undermining the Central Military Commission. The targeting of these generals is really about power politics. But this is unchallenged power ever. No one's had this much power since Mao that Xi has now. But this has led to a climate of suspicion in the military. Like, who's next? And do I want to be promoted so that I'm in the chute to get arrested? No, nobody is going to do that. So what are they going to do? They're going to do nothing. That's always the safest path for bureaucrats, is do nothing. There's a famous scene in Lawrence of Arabia after they take Aqaba, and they're like, what are you going to do? And he goes, nothing. He goes, yeah, that's usually the safest thing to do. So we don't have to worry about physical war with China. I don't even think we have to worry about Taiwan being taken. It certainly couldn't be held. But, this General Zhang's father was a revolutionary comrade of Xi. That's why he's called a Red Prince. He was one of the only handful of senior officers with combat experiences. So Xi is really destroying his support structure. And I've watched several Chinese commentators, and I've actually contacted a couple to get them on, where they go back and look at the same thing as happened to emperors in the past. And it's really fascinating to watch, because they talk about, and 400 years ago, this emperor did the same thing, because America is so young, but, China is an ancient country. So given the fate of those above, people won't want to get promoted. They won't want to make any decisions, but they also may decide, hey, if something happens, we need to move. Not that they're going to move a coup against Xi. They're too scared to do that. But without top professional military professionals who are cowed, decisions about escalation and aggression toward Taiwan will center even more on Xi. But with all the riots in the cities and the bank closings that are happening, then more riots plus a weak People's Liberation Army that does not want to do anything, and Xi not having good control, that equals the formula for Xi's fall. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And again, this is what I think Trump's whole tariff war was about. And while I'm very critical of Trump in many areas, I'm very praiseworthy in that he was the first to take on and recognize China's unrestricted war plan. He was the only one to ever do anything about it, and that was the tariff war. And the other tariffs against the other countries were simply window dressing. But he was the first one to do anything about that, and I think it's been pretty effective. And I think secretly his legacy goal is to overthrow communism in China. And could it happen now with this purge, which is a desperate move by Xi? Now it looks like it could. This is very, very significant. And what's also very significant is you're not hearing the mainstream fake news cover it. Why not? Because they're China paid off. It's exactly why they're not going to cover it. You have to look carefully to find Chinese experts, excuse me, to see what this is. But some of them are very profound and following this very closely. And some of them are former American Army officers as well. But this could actually be the downfall of communism in China and the fall of Xi if the riots continue and the protests continue in China and Trump keeps up his tariff war as well. So that's very, very significant. And that's why this is entitled Breaking Will Trump Reagan China, because it is now very possible that I think that could happen. And that's very, very significant. Pamoff says, if China is weak, how will this affect the Chinese stronghold they have over the California state and local governments? So when Xi came to California, they had all the Chinese flags up and everything. I interpreted that as a move to shore up Xi's support over in China, to internationally show off his publicity and his popularity, which I also interpreted as a move of weakness. So the control that Xi has over California is through the 1,000 Talents infiltration program in the universities, in the biotech space, via the unrestricted warfare doctrine. That's how I see that. So thank you, Pamela, for that question. And, since I don't have any guests today, I'm, happy and looking forward to taking all your questions. So, please throw them out there. Starmer just went to kiss Xi's ring in China, says Earl Jackson. Well, why is that happening all of a sudden? I'm sure that's because Xi asked him to do that, and he's enthralled to him. And what's the point of that? Again, that is the point to shore up Xi's image overseas. Why? Because he has a terrible image domestically, and there are lots of riots. So this is very, very significant. I can't emphasize it enough. And it's fascinating to see that almost no one else is covering this. And that's why you should be listening to the Praise Report. And please like, share, and subscribe this. Like, share, and subscribe to me on Rumble, on X. And I think I'm on YouTube. Somebody tell me if I am or not, because they're always canceling me there as well. But really, really important, because that really shifts the balance of world power there. Other than that, Trump's new fraud AG proves capture. So Trump just nominated the first ever Assistant Attorney General for national fraud. So what's this all about? Well, on Wednesday, Trump nominated federal prosecutor Colin McDonald to serve as the nation's first Assistant Attorney General for the new National Fraud Enforcement Division of the Department of Justice. The creation of the division of the new post comes in the wake of the federal fraud investigations into California and Minnesota. The fraud scandal has received national attention. So Trump has not released a lot of information on the fraud allegations in California, but he said that overall people have stolen hundreds of billions of taxpayer monies. He said, I'm pleased to nominate Colin McDonald to serve as Assistant General for National, as Assistant Attorney General. And the Assistant Attorney General is the important part. Of course, I've always said the most important position in the administration would be the Attorney General. Remember, under Eric Holder, I said Eric Holder's lying. I proved Eric Holder was lying. The Fast and Furious emails went right to the White House. But now we have a Pam Bondi that is doing nothing. So while the nation screams for Bondi to arrest someone, anyone, for something, for anything, or begs Trump to fire her and replace her with Paxton or a real AG, Trump creates a new AG for fraud, focusing on the flavor of the month, because this is what's in the news right now. So this is a PR move, is what I'm saying. That's all this is. But this AG, because he's an assistant AG, is, of course, under Bondi, the real AG. So, and if this doesn't prove Trump's deep state capture deal, I don't know what does. Because all Trump has to do is fire Bondi. Bondi serves at the pleasure of the president. The DOJ, which I served in, is under the executive period. So he could have fired her anytime. While he talks about the elections being stolen and prosecutions, if he doesn't want that to happen. Why? because I think he made a deal. I don't think it was too big to rig. I think he made a deal that, yeah, I'll come back in, but I won't go after you. I don't think he's thought that through because, of course, as soon as he's out of there, what are they going to do? They're going to go after him. And, of course, the precedent of charging and prosecuting a former president was established under Trump, against Trump. And he was convicted unfairly. It was a terrible case. But the precedent is there to go after Pedo Joe, Fauci. And the only thing they did was this really feeble last-minute effort to go after Comey. And it wasn't even for the coup and the conspiracy. It was simply for lying to Congress. So this is more unfortunate PR. But I'm sure the ever-Trumpers, just like the never-Trumpers, will think I'm treating Trump poorly. But actually, I started off praising him and I'm criticizing him. I'm just treating him like a man. He is not the Messiah, although some MAGA cultists think he is. And so beyond that, the FBI has a fake late Fulton County raid, and it means nada. And nada in Spanish means nothing. In case you don't know, I speak fluent Spanish because I worked Central and South America in Fuerzas Especiales, Special Forces, Boina Verdes, Green Berets, and also La DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. So I'm able to speak fluent. Si quiere hablar, hablemos, pero mis especialidades son manos arriba, no se mueva, si suelta el arma. But my specialties are raise your hands, don't move, and drop the gun. But the FBI is searching Atlanta election office, chasing 2020 fraud claims. So the FBI searched an election office in Georgia's Fulton County outside Atlanta on Wednesday, pursuing Trump's false claims. The article says it's not false claims; it's true claims about widespread 2020 election fraud. So the FBI said in a brief statement that its agents executed a warrant at the Fulton County Election Hub Operations Center in Union City. Not far, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on the chat, but there is a big Chinese consulate nearby, I believe. Somebody let me know if I have got that right. Search concluded on Wednesday night, law enforcement said. Warrant sought a number of records relating to the 2020 elections. The FBI agents were looking to seize computers and ballots they believed were held at the facility, part of an investigation into possible election interference. So the whole story discredits the truth that the 2020 election was stolen. So there we know it's a fake news story. But this is a laughingly transparent dog and pony show. Everybody knows the election was stolen, but the official script remains in place to protect the guilty in the system. After all this time, this happened in 2020. It's 2026 now. If the Fulton County frauds haven't cleaned up their computers, they're fools. So this is really, really late, and again, just for show. And this is why you should really subscribe to my Patreon because you can see the article where the big black FBI forensics trucks pulls up, and the thieves in their cool FBI jackets get out and open up the side panels of the full of shiny stuff, then stride inside. Looks like it was pulled straight from one of the DEI FBI TV shows that nobody watches. It is totally for show, and they will find nothing. In fact, they probably called him up ahead of time. It's like, hey, make sure you've wiped everything. Yeah, High Crop Man, Fulton County, Georgia raid should have been done in December 2020. Exactly. So 6 years later, what do you expect to find? You will find nothing. And then they'll say, hey, that reinforces the script that the election wasn't stolen because we went there 6 years later and there was nothing. Of course, all the results will have been erased, just like the FBI disappears all the other files all the time. but less and less people are believing the script. So that's really important. But this is a fake effort and means nothing. But there are real efforts going on. DNI Gabbard's task force has a new task force to dismantle the deep state. This is very significant. It's going to be very difficult to pull off, but it's very, very significant if it can happen. And of course, I worked closely with the Director of National Intelligence when I was a boss at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Spent a lot of time standing outside of the DNI's office, briefing the person who briefed them. But DNI Gabbard was actually visiting the site of the search on Wednesday as well in Fulton County. And that's unusual. So what was she doing there? Well, I think she was probably directing ways to look at computer files through computer forensics that only the intelligence community may have access to. She also may have been trying to keep the FBI from destroying and covering up evidence. But it's very interesting that the DNI was on site there. And, you know, Gabbard is one of the few Trump officials that I think is trying her best to do a good job. And of course, they're criticizing her. She's totally unqualified, utter lack of fitness. They're saying she should not be in there at all. But it's likely she was trying to keep the searchers honest and maybe give them extra forensics. Although the FBI is an intelligence agency, it's not a law enforcement agency. It's an intelligence agency with a law enforcement cover function. That's very important to understand as well. And so, you know, under Trump, the Justice Department has sued several states besides Georgia, demanding they turn over large volumes of voter data. Of course, the states are challenging those things. And can somebody tell me on the chat if there is a Chinese consulate very near there in Georgia? If I remember correctly, that is the case. Hi, Cropman says, I'm surprised they even found any ballots, considering supposedly they are only supposed to keep them for 2 years. Yeah, well, who knows what they found? But that's going to be the story that comes out. Hey, we, the FBI, did the search and we found nothing. We only did it 6 years later, but yeah. So the fake script is what you are supposed to continue to believe. So, I mean, it's ludicrous. Patrick Byrne and Gabbard would find altered dynamic link library files in the computers that would seized. So, you know, I know Patrick Byrne, you know, vaguely, and, you know, he has I'm not impressed by him, and he is saying that he was a high-level intelligence asset. So I'm not sure why. That's Earl Jackson, I believe. Yeah, Earl Jackson, very sharp guy, putting Patrick Byrne in with Gabbard. I don't know why you're doing that. Gabbard, you know, I'm impressed with. Byrne, whom I know, you know, vaguely, is unimpressive. But anyway, on to the fact that this is huge, that the DNI Gabbard has established a task force to restore trust in the intelligence community and end weaponization of the government against Americans. So the deep state is run by the intelligence community. If Gabbard can reform the IC, she reduces the deep state significantly. So this is an easy metric to see who's really in charge if she can get the JFK, MLK files out. And so DNI Gabbard has established a task force to restore trust in the intelligence community. She has announced this new task force, and her newly established Directors Initiative Group, DIG, is already hard at work executing President Trump's investigating weaponization, rooting out deep-seated politicization, exposing unauthorized disclosure of classified information, and declassified information that serves as the public interest. In order to rebuild trust in the intelligence community and execute the tasks required by President Trump's intelligence-related executive orders, I established the Directors Initiative Group to bring about transparency and accountability across the IC. We are already identifying wasteful spending in real time, streamlining outdated processes, reviewing documents for declassification, and leading ongoing efforts to root out abuses. Well, I think she's done a lot more than that, because she's accused, Obama, that they have the intelligence, that he conspired against Trump. So she's doing great work, and of course she's handed it all over to Bondi, and Bondi is doing absolutely nothing with it. Under the direction of DNI Gabbard, the work of the DIG is well underway and has thus implemented the following actions: reviewing documents for potential declassification, including information related to COVID-19 origins, crossfire hurricane, anomalous health incidents, the Biden administration's domestic surveillance and censorship actions against Americans. This is very, very significant, because I'm very familiar with classified material. I spent my whole life, my whole career looking at classified material. People overclassify stuff to just keep it secret. It's not that it's a danger to national security. It's just that it's politically inconvenient. So declassification is very, very important. They want to declassify the JFK files, the MLK files, Martin Luther King files, John Fitzgerald Kennedy files. And that's a real metric. If that can happen, then we can see that Gabbard is really in control of the intelligence community. I doubt that, because this is an entrenched octopus. This is Hydra with all these heads. But I salute the effort, and I'm excited about the effort, because if you can if you can reform the intelligence community, you can begin to dismantle the deep state. They also want to identify wasteful spending, inefficiencies, bloated bureaucracy. Okay, bloated bureaucracy is great. Identifying wasteful spending is just finding where all this money's going. That could be very significant, because they have a lot of black money through the intelligence agencies. So we will see what happens with this. Further, the director held employees who participated in sexually explicit NSA chat rooms accountable. Yeah. And so this is the NSA on classified chat rooms looking at porn and talking about porn, because the government is totally corrupt. It's just hasn't changed from Caligula's time, at all. So there are a number of executive orders related to DIG's efforts. There's EO 14147 on ending the weaponization of federal government. There's 14149 on restoring freedom of speech, ending federal censorship. EO 14151 on ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing, which would be great. EO 14152 on holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive government information. And of course, that's clear intention to AG Bondi. EO 14176, the declassification of records concerning the assassination of President John Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, and the Reverend Martin Luther King. And there's the metric. There's really the metric. If that happens, then Gabbard's really in control. If that doesn't happen, then Gabbard's not in control. Now remember, Trump already ordered this to happen, and it didn't happen, which shows who's really in control. Now I know the ever-Trumpers are going to freak out and say, where's the receipts? The receipts are the actions and inactions. It's very clear. Trump already said to declassify the JFK files, and they did not, and release them. Now, if Gabbard's really on the inside there, get inside, then that's really significant. There's other ones here: implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency, commencing the reduction of federal bureaucracy, ensuring lawful governance, implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency, preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections, protecting American bank account against fraud, immediate declassification of materials related to Federal Bureau of Investigation's crossfire hurricane investigations. And again, that would expose all the FBI corruption. Oh, here we go. PEMOF. The Consulate of China in Atlanta is a satellite of branch of office of the Embassy of China located in Washington, D.C. Okay, thank you for that, PEMOF. Hi, Cropman. As far as I'm concerned, almost everything should be declassified. We the people own information. No, there's sources and methods. You need things classified. If you got an informant working for you in a foreign country or something, you gotta protect him, or he'll be killed. I'm very, very familiar with that firsthand. You've got to protect your sources. My source in my big case has since outed himself, but I'm still not ever going to out him. So sources need to be protected. Also, specialized methods of collecting intelligence that people don't know about are important as well, so they don't get exposed. Although the major way of intelligence collection today is OSINT, is public information, because there is so much of it now. That's really what I do, UMINT and OSINT all the time. Those are the main really important stories of today. Declassify 9/11, yes. I wasn't figuring sources, and like you said, yeah. Well, I guess you're not an intel guy. I don't know. I am. That's hopefully why you're listening to me, for my expertise, in this area. But in case you didn't get enough from Trump, Rubio indicates the U.S. could preemptively attack Iran to prevent an assault on American forces. So this sounds exactly like Israel is. We attacked them because they were going to attack us. So the secretary said he felt the buildup in the Middle East was necessary to ensure that the 330,000 American troops stationed in the region are protected in case tensions with Iran escalate further. Okay, so Iran is never going to attack us outright, and never has. Persia is an ancient nation. They took hostages, which is a big thing in the Middle East. But this whole thing about nuclear war with Iran is never going to happen. And anybody who says is a shill, is a fraud for the military industrial war pigs complex, and for, of course, the Israeli government for their Zionist and Greater Israel policies. It's just not going to happen. And they could not pull it off anyway. So what's Trump doing? Is he arresting Pedo Joe? Is he arresting Comey, Fauci? Is he doing any of that? No. He is preparing for war with Iran. And I think that Venezuela was the preparatory op, the exercise really for Iran. And now we've got 30,000 American troops stationed in there. We've got a carrier group there. There's a lot of air that has gone with them, with the carrier group, and I think maybe separately as well from that. And the provocation will come. It'll probably come through Israel, through some false flag to make this happen. But if you didn't want something to happen, you wouldn't put all of the military assets there. But you shove all the military assets surrounding Iran, and we have bases surrounding Iran. And sooner or later, something's going to happen. And then you can attack and say, well, look, see, they provoked us. And this has got Israel written all over it. And I also wanted to mention, I got an email from a fine gentleman named Brian Harris, who let me know that Janet Fallon had died in Mexico. And he had acted as a mail drop for her in the United States for quite some time. And he knew that I knew her. And he asked me to check into some details of returning the body to the family in California. I went over that, and then turns out she's Jewish, so the body gets disposed of very quickly, according to Jewish law. And I just said in closing, Brian, you're a good man and a faithful friend. Proud to make your acquaintance. If I can be of any more assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. But Janet was somebody I tried to have on. She was very difficult. probably because of her trauma. She died alone, very much like my biological mom did, because of her trauma. And it's a real tragedy. So prayers for Janet Phelan and her estranged family, and my kudos to Brian Harris, quite the gentleman and good friend there as well. So let me see Earl Jackson here. Iran just tested an ICBM. Yes. ICBM in cooperation with Russia. Yes, I saw that. I am not really concerned about that. About Russia's hypersonic missiles, that's something else. Analyst latest missile claimed was 1,000-kilometer ICBM with Russian consent. So, my question would be, okay, why? Why are you going to bomb America with an ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, with a nuclear warhead? Do you expect to win that conflict? Of course not. It's absurd. Now, the Israelis may be concerned about that, but I'm not Israeli, and I'm not on team Israel. But I think this is just more propaganda. I don't see this happening, but I do see a clear march to war with Iran, and because we have so many troops around Iran, then we're going to have troops killed and in harm's way. I don't think we're going to put troops into Iran. But again, the solution of bombing someone to win never, ever works. It only works in nuclear war, and that we've only done that once with Japan, where we nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki and killed tens of thousands of civilians, women and children, and broke the enemy's will to resist, which is really what war is about. So if we really want to stop Iran, then we would have to nuke them, not simply destroy their nuclear facilities, which are not a threat anyway to us. They have not been. But the idea is, and every politician, every regime says, well, we can drop some bombs and then take credit for it. And that's what they do. But that never solves the problem. And it only builds more resistance against you, always. And, you just got to look at, there are endless examples of this in history, but genius generals and these prattling politicians don't realize that. Just look at England. Hitler was convinced that if by bombing London, he would break the will of the English people. What did he do? He solidified the will of the English people. C.S. Lewis writes all his great stuff coming out. That's the whole background for the Narnia stuff and the kids that they have to go out to the country, that they are moved out. And England sacrificed London so they could save their planes for the Battle of Britain and get air dominance. So this bombing thing never works. It didn't work the first time. It's not going to work the next time, but it's what Israel wants done. So we will do it. The argument for intruding on Iran is to free the millions of citizens. Are you concerned about losing American soldiers with this situation? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, is I am concerned about that. And yes, the Iranian people, the Persian people do want to be freed for sure, but it is not our job to do that. Certainly not through military intervention. A lot of these riots and protests are Mossad sponsored and probably CIA paid for. Mossad has admitted saying that. But is the Iranian regime teetering as the Xi regime is teetering? I don't think so. So again, The world is full of despots and tyrants, and it is not the American government's job to intervene everywhere all the time. We've intervened. I did a show where I showed we've intervened, hundreds of times, and we've done regime change hundreds of times, and it never works out well. So we should stop doing that. And no less the personage than our first rock star, General Washington, was saying this: is don't get involved in foreign entanglements. So I'm just saying what Agent 711, the original intel guy, the original general, the indispensable man, was saying about America. But no one's listening to him or me in that regard. But there is more good news out there, and that is that the Great Reset is failing. And this year at the World Economic Forum, there were the discussions were quite different. So net zero met industrial reality, despite many sessions continuing to adhere to the forum's longstanding emphasis on so-called climate change and risks and warnings. Some talks were shaped by concerns over sovereignty and strategic dependence, including energy and security chains. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said at the WEF stage event that Europe's decarbonization goals risk increasing dependency on adversarial nations such as China for key components of its energy transition. Shouldn't be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. Pretty obvious, not saying anything, really profound there, but these guys are all idiots. Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? And of course, China's not participating in any of that. Vilmar Kapoor, CEO of Honeywell, my dad used to do work for Honeywell, for Cincinnati die casting, for bomb parts. Major U.S. industrial and technology conglomerate supply critical systems for aerospace industry, manufacturing, heavy industry worldwide, said the renewable energy alone cannot currently sustain the high energy demands to produce cement or steel. The alternative systems don't work. They can't do it. They never have been able to do it. And some of the clearest signals came from absences rather than speeches. Schwab didn't attend this year. Schwab wrote the COVID-19 Great Reset book, of course. And there is now an anti-globalist challenge. And Davos has hosted critics before, but this year they really hosted quite a bit of them. Argentine President Javier Milei this year went even further than last year, blasting socialism and what he described as the West's abandonment of liberty, framing 2026 as a year of global awakening towards a free market principle. The world has begun to awaken. We have a better future ahead, but that better future exists only if we return to the roots of the West, which means returning to the ideas of liberty. Hear, hear. Great stuff. The new world of great powers is being built on power and strength. When it comes to it, on force, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said. It's not a cozy place. It's always been built on power and force. It's just that they haven't talked about it before. Both Germany and Europe have wasted incredible potential for growth in recent years by dragging feet on reforms and unnecessarily and excessively curtailing entrepreneurial freedoms and personal responsibility. Hear, hear. But these are not the things you usually hear at the WEF. So the conversation is changing. We are winning. And then Trump, of course, was high profile there. It said the USA is the economic engine on the planet. When America booms, the entire world booms. He said, we want European civilization to do great. We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones. We want Europe to be strong. So that's very, very significant in many ways. And we shall see how all of that shakes out. But that doesn't deny the fact that Trump is Israel first, and that Trump has really completed the Zionization of America. And this is where I disagree with so many who talk about the Islamification of Europe and America while they ignore the Zionization that has already taken place. So emblematically, Israel recently rolled out a slogan for its parasitic domination in the United States: 50 states, one Israel. Now, this phenomena didn't begin with Trump. It's built on decades of incremental concessions and numerous acts of Zionist sabotage and criminality. But Trump's return to power accelerated it and finalized it completely. Trump's role in this completion was central. He positioned himself not as an equal partner, but as a mere facilitator of Israeli objectives at the expense of American autonomy. His administrative actions in 2025 have revealed a level of deference that exceeds all previous administrations. The American first mask has come off, revealing the Zionist identity underneath. Trump now serves as an Israeli satrap charged with managing Israel's westernmost branch. Whatever the deep state is, it operates according to the Zionist desiderata and ideology. In the process of this infiltration and assimilation, America has been consumed and remade in the image of Israel. Congressional maneuvers, media acquisitions, international defense, propaganda initiatives, United Nations vetoes, executive orders, speeches, defense pact provisions, public posts by Trump and officials, and judicial findings all lock in Zionism's U.S. control. Military arms and funding represent the most concrete and quantifiable form of servility. By the time the Trump administration committed additional $14 billion in aid by 2025, the genocide in Gaza had become starkly apparent. And of course, we are still not doing anything about that. Why do these foreign countries have consulates in every state? Seems like spying to me. No, there's a lot of commerce between individual states and even between individual cities because they're working on their economies. So no, the consulates are legitimate, but of course, all the consulates, yes, are havens for spies. That's real important because if you have a black passport, that is, if you have diplomatic immunity and you're caught spying, then you're just sent home. If you're a knock, if you are not under non-official cover where you're not diplomatic, then that's a big deal. Those are the spies out in the cold. That's what the first Mission Impossible movie was about a long time ago, the knock list. So the administration's $14 billion surge in funding ignored the horrors of Gaza, the bombs and drone swarms that leveled entire blocks, the artillery shells that shredded families in their homes, and the fuel for tanks that barreled through civilian areas. On February 7, 2025, Trump notified Congress of an $8.4 billion arms sales to Israel paid for by U.S. aid, encompassing foreign military sales and direct commercial sales. These included 2,000-pound bombs and artillery rounds that Human Rights Watch later linked to strikes on densely populated areas, killing hundreds in single incidents. In September, an additional $6.4 billion request for attack drones was sent. The pattern is extended to logistical support for Israel's operations. The administration advanced a September House bill to expand the war reserve stock for allies, Israel. We are stocking Israel, not us, Israel. By late September, Israel had drawn down over $1 billion for Gaza alone. In mid-September 2025, a record delegation of 250 U.S. state senators from all 50 states attended the 50 States One Israel conference in Jerusalem, hosted by Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs. So what's happening there? Well, they're getting prostitutes, and then they're getting recorded, extorted, blackmailed, paid off, all of that. Media integration under administration facilitation represents the cornerstone of Zionization. The government permitted Larry Ellison's $14 billion purchase of TikTok's U.S. division, situating him to modify algorithms that mute Gaza coverage, previously influencing young Americans against Israel. Of course, and that's the big split there as well. A $40 billion offer for Warner Brothers Discovery Channel arrived by autumn, with the Ellisons absorbing CNN, HBO, and Discovery to surpass Disney in extent. Larry Ellison is the largest individual direct donor to the IDF, having given at least $350 million, siphoning through Tony Blair's Institute. Combined with Safra Katz's position as Oracle leader and Trump advisors, the Ellisons' media takeover have established a Zionist media mega monopoly, suppressing opposition. And that is extremely significant. and Congress has approved this merger wave, omitting antitrust evaluation. This is why I say Trump is a Zionist, and he is the first Jewish president. The U.S. has rejected over 50 resolutions hostile to Israel since 2000, prolonging this practice in 2025 to hinder Gaza truces or responsibility inquiries. Executive orders codified this prioritization. The administrator issued 26 day one orders, including EEO 141188, combating anti-Semitism. Court determinations in America Association of University Professors versus Rubio recently unveiled the depths of Zionist infestation and rot. The Trump administration, the ruling declared, established an ideological deportation policy that expelled non-citizens for pro-activism, conflating criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism and Hamas support, which of course is destroying the First Amendment. Homeland Security Investigations Tiger teams relied on Canary Mission, a pro-Israel blacklist with 5,000 plus dossiers on haters of Israel and Jews for deportation leads. Now that is very different than Somali frauds and terrorists, and very significant. And of course, Rubio approved deportation based on indicating support for terrorists, not that they were terrorists, just indicating support for terrorists. To expand on the military dimension, consider the broader aspects of the $38 billion package. This sum, the largest single commitment in U.S. history to a foreign military, included not only $14 billion emergency aid, but also ongoing deliveries of F-35 jets. So we're giving them air equality with us, Iron Dome interceptors, precision guided munitions. By early 2025, when the genocide in Gaza was fully documented with satellite imagery showing 80% of the Strip's buildings damaged or destroyed, from Medicinas San Fronteras detailing the deliberate targeting of aid workers, the administration ignored calls from allies like the European Union for conditional aid. Instead, it certifies Israel's compliance with U.S. human rights under the Leahy provisions. The 8.4 billion February notification covered 500 Mk-84 bombs and 1,000 GBU-39 small diameter bombs. The September $6.4 billion drone package arrived as Israel intensified operations in northern Gaza, where U.S.-supported Hellfire missiles were used in targeting killings that often resulted in civilian casualties. The administration's rationale, Israel's right to self-defense, ignored the complete asymmetry of this, with Israel's military budget exceeding $24 billion annually, bolstered by U.S. aid against Hamas's $100 million. There's no comparison here. There is no real threat. They have made it up. The Gaza Strip takeover plan is built on this foundation. The 20-point proposal, drafted with Israeli input, proposed a U.S.-led stabilization to oversee reconstruction, annexing the Gaza Strip under American auspices while Israel retains security control. And of course, Jared Kushner is all in on that. Drop Hander says, all I can say is the U.S. government had better not try and bail the Chinese out when this is over, or it will be war. Bail the Chinese out. Well, I guess that could happen. We will see. But the point is, we now live under Ziocracy. The United States has been completely Zionized. The U.S. is occupied, and the occupation of the Palestine will not end. And the Israeli attacks on Palestinians and other neighbors will continue. And Israel will continue to hold us hostage until the Zionist occupation of America is overthrown. So I am sure that will upset all of the ever-Trumpers who see Trump as their Messiah as opposed to Yeshua. But I am all about continuing to give you the truth. That's the whole point of the Prather Point as America's intelligence officer. And I have always tried to maintain that. So if you can, support the show at patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather at the $5, $15, or $25 level. Or you can go to jeffreyprather.locals.com, $9 a month, $90 a year. Don't forget to check out my other sponsors, Meehan MD, my personal doctors, alternative medicines there. Jace, you can get jeffreyprather.com/Jace discounts as well. Heaven's Harvest as well. And great Stay Brewed coffee at staybrewed.com or teamamericacoffee.com as well. So remember, freedom is taken, but discipline begets freedom, develops duty, replaces addiction with independence. Reaction with action activates dependability. Dependability requires availability. Availability trumps ability and begets consistency. Consistency births integrity. And integrity is resiliency. And in times of terror and tribulation, integrity begets endurance, which begets existence. And in the worst of times, just existence is resistance. And continue to resist and continue to remember that freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So take it.